having a great morning at the Summit. So let's dive into it really quickly. So today we're going to be talking about how you can use an AI-powered coding companion, Amazon Code Whisperer, to help you accelerate your development. So today we're going to go through just a few challenges, what Code Whisperer can help with, how Amazon Code Whisperer can help you with those challenges, then how you can customize Code Whisperer for your organization so that it's a little bit more in tune with your internal APIs. And then we'll go through some of the features of Amazon Q Developer that can help you as well. And then I'll be inviting Andrew Bryden, Chief Engineer from NAB, up on stage to run through the journey that NAB's been on with generative AI, specifically how it relates to their developers. So we all know building secure and reliable applications is difficult. And as we heard in the keynote this morning, the rate of change is only increasing. So how do we do that fast, securely, and reliably? So not only is there a shortage of developers, we all have to spend a lot of time on undifferentiated code, time spent learning new APIs and frameworks, and then making sure that we don't inadvertently copy open source code and don't attribute it properly. Then there's all the maintenance and upgrade of all that code we've written. So that takes up a lot of time as well. And above all, we need to make sure that we're detecting and fixing security issues as soon as we can, even before that code gets checked into your repository. So it's little wonder that there's only 27% of our time being spent on actually delivering new features for our organization, with the rest of that time filled with all the other things that we need to do in our daily work. So how do we get the most out of that 27%? So Amazon Code Whisperer is an AI-powered coding companion that helps you generate code right there in the IDE, wherever you're working. It allows you to generate code suggestions in real time, so function and line completion. It helps you scan your code for vulnerabilities right in the IDE. So rather than waiting for you to check your code in, you can run a security scan from the IDE, and Code Whisperer will check for a whole bunch of vulnerabilities and bring back suggestions for you to fix them. Code Whisperer can also help flag code that it generates that appears to be like open source code. Not to say that it does generate it, but it monitors the output to check if it resembles some open source code, and it gives you the attribution right there in the IDE so that you can check that in with your code as well. Now, because we like to dog food our own things here at Amazon, during the preview, we ran a productivity challenge, and we found that a couple of Amazon teams that went head-to-head were 27% more likely to complete tasks successfully, and did so with an average of 57% faster than those who didn't use Code Whisperer. So a pretty interesting stat there. So Code Whisperer works by picking up code snippets as you type. So you type in comments in natural language. Code Whisperer will send snippets of that code, any other relevant code that it finds in your IDE. It will securely send that to the Code Whisperer service, and it will send back code suggestions within a fraction of a moment. So that gives you real-time code suggestions, the reference tracking, and potentially security scans if you need them. But all the while, content being processed by Code Whisperer Professional is never used to store, not stored or used for service improvement. Now, Code Whisperer is available with all your favorite tools. So you can use it with Python, Java, JavaScript, over 15 different languages. And recently at reInvent, we added support for infrastructure as code. So you can use it with CloudFormation, CDK, and even Terraform. It's also available in all the IDEs that you like to use. So we've got support for VS Code, IntelliJ, and at reInvent, we just announced support for Visual Studio. And then, of course, it's also available in all of the consoles in AWS where you write your code as well. So you can use it in AWS Cloud 9, even in the Lambda console if you need it, SageMaker Studio, Glue Studio. It's available without much configuration. You simply need to add some IAM configuration, and away you go. Code Whisperer is available to help you there. So this is an example of the most basic function of Code Whisperer. So I'm simply typing in parse a CSV string of songs and return the list. And Code Whisperer will generate the function signature. I can accept that. And then it will go ahead and give me the rest of the function there. Now, the natural language description must be in English for the moment, but Code Whisperer can suggest comment completions to help you formulate intent quickly. It can automatically generate unit tests, which we'll see a little bit later. And it also provides high-quality AWS suggestions. So it's been trained on billions of lines of Amazon code, and so that way you know that you're getting good quality suggestions for AWS APIs. Now, Code Whisperer also matches your coding style. So as I said before, Code Whisperer is looking around the project that you've got open in your IDE, and it can match the variable and naming patterns that you're using within your code and continue to generate code in your style. So more like having a pair programmer by your side. Now, the security scanning that's available in the IDE, you simply access by clicking on the Q Developer panel on the left-hand side of your IDE. And then Code Whisperer will zip up the files and send it off to the Code Whisperer service. Code Guru Security will scan those files for you and return suggested remediation. So here is a demo of how the security scanning works. So I've got a small project over here. I simply select Start Security Scan. Code Whisperer will zip up the file and all its dependencies. It will send it off to the Code Whisperer service, and then it will come back with the security vulnerabilities, and it will give you detailed information on the findings that it's found. So in here, it's found some insecure hashing. I scroll down, I see the suggested fix from Code Whisperer. And right at the top, I can hit Apply Fix, and then that code will be instantly placed into my IDE where it needs to be fixed. Now I can go ahead and run the security scan again. And then after a few moments, the vulnerability is fixed, and it saves me time having to come back later and fix things if I'm doing scanning in my code repository or in my pipeline. Now the benefit of this is it just saves you some time. Fixing security problems earlier in the life cycle of your project is much cheaper than fixing them later. So this is a great addition to help you out in addition to the existing security tools that you have in your pipelines. Now you don't only work in the IDE, so Code Whisperer is also available for you in the command line. So this gives you IDE-style completions for over 500 different CLIs, and it also gives you natural language conversion to bash prompting. So you just need to type Q in the prompt, in the terminal, and you'll get access to Q right there to help you convert natural language into bash. Now, at the moment, it's available in preview and only available on Mac, but then there's more support coming soon as we go to GA. This is an example of the inline CLI completion here. So helping me build a git command so that I can check my code in. So you'll see the autocomplete pops up as I type, giving me relevant suggestions on how to complete the code. And then a quick example here of just how Q can help me with translating text to shell. I don't remember all the bash commands that I need to use day to day, so it's quite handy to just be able to do this without heading off to Google or somewhere else to search for the right commands. Now, I mentioned before that you get high-quality AWS suggestions, but what about all the APIs and frameworks that I use in my organization or your organization? So that's where Code Whisperer Customizations comes in. So Code Whisperer Customizations allows you to get recommendations that now include high-quality suggestions for all your internal APIs and frameworks. So you can securely connect Code Whisperer to your internal code repository, or if you prefer, you can zip up the code and paste it and put it into an S3 bucket, and then you can let Code Whisperer ingest that code for you, and it will create a customization resource that is then used as part of your prompting. So if you're familiar with the term retrieval augmented generation, that enables Code Whisperer to look up your examples of good code from your organization and then provide relevant suggestions back to your developers. And of course, with AWS, security is baked in, so you've got full control over who's got access to which customization resources. So think if you've got many different teams or business units across a large organization, you can create different customization resources that have different relevant examples of good code for different parts of your business. And then Code Whisperer can generate suggestions for your developers right there in the IDE that are relevant. So here's an example of me prompting Code Whisperer with just the foundation model, so just the basic model that comes with Code Whisperer. So I've got create a function to call an AppSync GraphQL endpoint, and you can see Code Whisperer gives me a generic response based on best practices. Now, to select a customization, all I need to do in the IDE is just hit select customization. I've got access to my organization's custom resource. And now when I do the same prompt, I get a much more relevant answer from Code Whisperer. So Amazon Q. So we heard this morning in the keynote, Amazon Q is available to help you across a range of services in AWS, and Q Developer is the service that helps you right there in the IDE. So Q Developer works right alongside Code Whisperer in your IDE, which allows you to get a lot more done much faster without context switching away from your IDE where you're working. So here's an example of getting up to speed on a new project. I can simply highlight a bit of code and ask me what the application does. Code Whisperer will analyze the snippet of code and come back with relevant information on what that code's actually doing. And then I can do other things like create unit tests. Code Whisperer, Q Developer will do that for me, and I can insert it right back into my code where I'm working. Now, another really interesting feature is Amazon Q code transformation. Now, code transformation helps you with some of that undifferentiated heavy lifting. Nobody likes to sit around updating old code to new versions, and that's where Code Whisperer comes in and helps you with upgrading, at the moment in preview, upgrading from Java 8 to 17. So I've got an example here of a project. It's just a word cloud generator. You can see here it's built with the Corretto 1.8 SDK, and all I need to do is ask Q to transform it for me. So what Q will do is it will zip up all the files that are in my source folder, securely send that off to the Code Whisperer service or the Q Developer service. And then what it does is it builds it in Java 8 inside the service. It will generate a transformation plan for me, which is essentially a sequence of what needs to be done to my local project in order to upgrade that code. So we've sped this demo up because it takes, depending on how large and complex your code is, it could take 5 minutes, could take a little bit longer. But basically Q will go ahead and update all the dependencies in the project, figure out where it needs to make changes, and then it will rebuild the project in the Java 17 in the service, in a secure build environment. And it was successful, so then I download the transformation plan, and I get a neat summary in the form of diffs that I need to accept in my project. So I can go ahead and review what I need to change. Yep, it all looks good. There's the build transformation plan there. And then that's it. My project's upgraded. So an interesting statistic with this is we did this internally at AWS, and we were able to transform 1,000 apps over a course of 2 days. So I'm really excited to see what customers do with this and how fast it can speed up your development. But you don't have to take my word for it. I'm just going to invite up Andrew Bryden, Chief Engineer from National Australia Bank, to tell us about their journey with AI-powered coding companions. Yeah. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon. Hello, everyone. Just go figure out how the clicker works. Yes, so Andrew Bryden, National Australia Bank, Chief Engineer. My role is focused at NAB in ensuring our development team are as productive as they can be. Now, last year, there was a little bit of hype around Gen AI. Some of you may have heard of it. We as a group started looking at Gen AI and the different ways it could help our organization. And looking at how it could benefit our developers was one of the key areas we were thinking about. Now, at NAB, we have thousands of developers split between Australia, Vietnam, and India. Working with them to help them focus on developing customer features came out as a clear kind of thing that we wanted to focus on looking at this product. Now, we'd heard that there were some productivity opportunities with the tool, but we really wanted to understand that for ourselves. So we looked at our organization and we thought about how do we best go about implementing or trying out this tool with a view to taking it out to a much wider audience in our developer space. So we looked at the tool, looked at the opportunity, created a small team around implementing that within the guardrails that we have to work in as a regulated bank, and onboarded about 20 or 30 people to start a proof of concept and to help us start driving some data around the use of the tool. So at NAB, we like to be super data driven when we're looking at new things to make sure they actually give us benefits and are kind of worth following through on. So we wanted to understand that. So we then started building on top of this. So we tried this out with teams working on code in small groups in our development environments. Then we scaled out to a bigger group of people to really enhance what they were working on, and also started working with our production code bases to get people to start using this day to day as part of their role. And we had a team initially of about 70 people across the bank, focused on really enabling whole squads of engineers using the tool to really start building out this hypothesis and proving the productivity opportunities. Now remember, some of the things that Simon mentioned are newer features that hadn't been released yet. So we were focused on really, how does it help with code generation in the IDE? So what we started to see as people use the tool, that they were accepting more and more of the suggestions that came from Code Whisperer. So as you can see on here, when they're in the IDE, and that's the kind of key thing for the experience here, is people in the IDE that weren't having to jump out to go look things up, whether that was on Confluence or Google. So it was making them immediately more productive because they were all working within a single pane of glass, and were able to get responses immediately to what they were trying to do. So 50% of their code suggestions suggested by Code Whisperer were being accepted by the engineers. And when we surveyed them after they'd been using it, or at least 40% of the people felt that they were more productive using the tool. So we wanted to do a bit more though. We wanted more data. We wanted more active users on the tool, and Amazon moving as fast as it does, we're coming out with new capabilities that we were thinking about in terms of new use cases for using the tool. So we've rapidly ramped up usage internally to about 450 engineers across different teams, across different regions. And we've seen some key things happen as part of using the capability in the organization. So I'm going to go into some lessons learned. So I think the key thing for me, and the thing I've noticed the most, is it's actually really quite hard to change the way people work. And I think this is true of all the Gen AI tools that are available. When you're actually asking someone to work differently, they have to consciously think about it. And that's the thing, it takes a bit of time for teams to actually start using the tool, make it part of their rhythm. But once they do, we definitely see them working more effectively and more efficiently. We actually had to make some tech changes within our environment as we were getting some lag just in terms of getting prompts back. And we had to work through that, because at the end of the day, the experience that someone wants to have is they want the suggestions to come back quickly, and then if there's any lag, they kind of lose interest in using it, and usage drops away. We started looking at use cases using some of the functionality that Simon mentioned, and we think these are kind of game changers for what we want to do next. So I think the translation tool for doing upgrades within our environment is super important. We manage thousands of apps. You can imagine getting thousands of apps from different language versions and upgrading them is a lot of work. And we're really looking forward to trying that out as a kind of next stage use case for NAB. And I think that you need to, when you're implementing something like that, you need to focus on some clear use cases and clear outcomes that you're looking to drive. It can be easy to kind of focus just on general kind of productivity improvements, but I think it's key to kind of focus around some key things you want to do differently. So I think that's our kind of overall experience in NAB. It's been good so far. These tools are new. We've got a lot still to learn, and we're looking forward to scaling this out to other engineers in our environment and getting good use. So thank you very much, and I'm going to get Simon to come back on to help wrap us up.
Thanks. Thanks, Andrew. It's really, really interesting to see what you guys are doing with the tech, and it's great to see NAB moving forward, embracing new technologies. So we're almost done. Just going to wrap up. I know this was a really quick talk. We've only got 30 minutes to talk in these builders sessions here at Summit so that you guys can get to more sessions throughout the day. So that was really just giving you a flavor of what you can do with Code Whisperer and Amazon Q Developer. Just to wrap up, so basically what you've seen from what I was talking about before and with one of our customers here at AWS is using tools like this and integrating them into your workflow. Yes, it might take a little bit of time to get developers used to it, but really once you do get used to it, you start to see developers quickly accomplishing basic coding tasks a lot more faster, less context switching in and out of the IDE because you can ask questions right there and pull in relevant information from outside. You get high quality suggestions for AWS services. How do I upload to an S3 bucket? As you saw in the keynote, how do I use Mistral on Bedrock? Give me the code for that. You no longer need to run through all the documentation to figure out how to do things. Q will drop the code right there into your IDE where you're working. You can use it across all your favorite tools right now. So you've got it available in VS Code, JetBrains. I encourage you to go and try it out with a free Builder ID if you haven't already. And always, I'm also a security specialist here at AWS, so I'm really keen on improving application security as early as possible in the development lifecycle. So make sure, try out the security scan feature, think about how you can speed up your application security before you get to your security architects at the end of the development project. And also, above all, and what you'll hear throughout today is AWS's commitment to using generative AI responsibly, and Code Whisperer really helps there. So, if you want to get started with Code Whisperer, there's a few QR codes up there on the screen. So you can get started with Amazon Code Whisperer, which is all the documentation. There's a link there to how to do customization resources and how to do that. And also there's some great Code Whisperer and Amazon Q Developer workshops that are available. If you head straight outside here, there's the Next Gen Developer booth, where the team's more than happy to talk to you more about Q Developer. And also, the obligatory slide at the end, we'd love you to try out Skill Builder. So we're giving away a 7-day free trial to that. We use this all the time internally at Amazon to learn about new services and things. Obviously, it's hard keeping up with over 200 different services, so I use this quite a lot. But you can get a 7-day free trial just by heading to skillbuilder.aws, and you can also see T&C training and certification just out at the back of the expo hall there. But I'd like to thank Andrew Bryden for coming and sharing his story. So if you'd all join me in a round of applause for Andrew. Thank you. And finally, the most important slide. If you haven't already, please download the AWS Events app. Not only will it help you get to all of your events today, but there is the all-important survey. And those of you who know AWS, we love our surveys. So please, if you enjoyed the session, please make sure you hit that 5 stars there. Really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your day at Summit. Thank you. Cool. Let's go.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Andrew. We're going to have another session in about 15 minutes at 12:20. Mastering serverless, a day of life of a developer. Really interesting. Please come.